I found it on a Tuesday afternoon in the middle of a drive migration that nobody else had volunteered to do. The company had announced a restructuring 3 days earlier. That was the word in the email. Restructuring. Marcus Holt's name at the bottom, no other signatures. It said the company had entered preliminary talks with a potential buyer, that all non-essential travel was on hold, that the executive team was assessing options. 38 people processed that quietly, and then stopped being quiet. The folder was called Q4 Resource Mapping. I found it during a storage reorganization Marcus had assigned me to 3 days before the all-hands email went out. My job was to move legacy project files into a new archive structure and flag anything that didn't belong. This folder was nested inside an operations subfolder that hadn't been touched in 6 months. The creation date on it was 12 days before the restructuring announcement. Inside, it was a file called Loyalty Assessment. Cycle 1. I didn't open it right away. I looked at the name, looked at the date, closed the folder, and kept working. I came back to it that night. It was a spreadsheet. 31 names, everyone below director level. Next to each name, current role, response behavior, LinkedIn activity, assessment status. The status column had color-coded cells. Green was nothing notable. Yellow was something flagged. Red was monitoring escalated. David Correa had red. There was a second tab. Screenshots, LinkedIn profiles, timestamps, profile view activity sorted by date. Not 1 or 2 people. Every person on the list. 2 of them had updated their profiles before the end of the first day the email went out. I know that because someone had been watching for exactly that and had logged it here. Someone had built a monitoring structure around the entire non-director staff during a crisis that, at this point, I was starting to understand had never been real. There was a separate document in that folder. Board communication. Final. I opened it. It was the all-hands email, word for word, identical to what had been sent. The metadata said it was created by Marcus Holt, his personal work profile, his machine. Not the board, not a communications team. Marcus, 12 days before it was sent. I sat with that for a while. I've worked in places where learning something you weren't supposed to meant the right move was to stop. I understood that, but I kept going, not because I was angry, but because I wanted to see the full shape of it before I decided anything. The next morning, I pulled up the shared HR calendar during a routine scheduling task. 2 weeks before the all-hands email, Rachel Foy had a recurring block. Every Tuesday, 9 in the morning. It was labeled Loyalty Cycle Prep. It had been running for 6 weeks. She was not surprised by the announcement. She had been building toward it for a month and a half. I pulled the email admin panel during a mail migration that had been sitting on my task list. The all-hands email had originated from Marcus's personal draft folder. Not a board account, not an external communications address. His machine, his folder, a Sunday night. Sent the following Wednesday. There was no alternate explanation for that. Then I looked at David Correa's performance file through an HR system audit I was legitimately running. 2 clean years, solid numbers, no flags. Then, starting 5 weeks ago, a new section had appeared in his most recent quarterly review. Engagement concerns noted since Q3, written by Rachel. The timestamp in the edit log said she'd written it 2 days after the all-hands email went out. Not during Q3, not before the crisis. after it. He'd updated his LinkedIn because he was worried about his job. He'd asked his manager directly whether cuts were coming. Both of those things had put his name in red on a list that was never supposed to exist. I kept my face normal in meetings. I watched Marcus watch people. He had a habit that first week of scanning the room during updates, not looking at screens, looking at faces, reading something he'd built the conditions to observe. I watched him do it 3 times. His parking routine didn't change. I noticed that. Same spot, same arrival window, same departure time. I confirmed it against the badge access log during a credential audit I was running that week. Arrivals and departures steady to within 12 minutes either direction, the whole stretch of it. During what was supposed to be the most uncertain period the company had seen in years, Marcus Holt's physical routine never moved. He wasn't managing a crisis. He was watching one perform. That was the behavioral side. The document side was worse. The Phase 2 email was sitting in the shared HR inbox I had admin access to through my migration work. Subject line: Phase 2 responses. Marcus and Rachel. The body referenced consequence deployment and performance realignment. It wasn't reactive, it was sequenced. Identify the flight risks, build the paperwork, exit them on clean grounds. Nobody asks why. Nobody can. I thought about what I could realistically do with what I had. Going to Marcus directly told him how deep I'd been in the drive. Going to HR meant going to Rachel. Going above Marcus meant approaching board members I'd never spoken to, with no relationship and no standing. So I didn't do any of that. I made 1 copy of the loyalty assessment spreadsheet and 1 copy of the board communication draft with the metadata intact. I wrote a single paragraph, no name, no signature, no accusation, summarizing what those 2 documents showed. I sat at a laptop I hadn't used for any of the access work, in a coffee shop 2 blocks from the office, and I sent the package to the board-level address used for external audit communications. The one that bypasses internal staff. The one that goes somewhere Marcus doesn't moderate. 3 weeks later, David Correa's performance review was quietly updated. The engagement concern section was gone. No meeting called, no explanation attached. His quarterly bonus came through at full amount the following cycle. Marcus held an all-hands 2 weeks after that. He said the restructuring talks had concluded and the company was moving forward independently. He thanked everyone for their stability. He said loyalty was something you couldn't manufacture, only observe. He didn't scan the room during that one. He looked at the floor. The folder was deleted about 4 weeks after I sent that email. The spreadsheet, the screenshots, the Phase 2 thread, all of it gone. Which tells me he understood exactly what had been found. Someone who deletes a folder instead of confronting you is someone who is now more afraid than you are. I've kept my access clean since. I do my work. I watch what moves and what doesn't. Every few weeks, I check the drive to see if there's a new folder that doesn't belong. There isn't. Not yet.